Hi, welcome back to the new norm. I'm Dr. Lou Graham, and this program is brought to you by Midway Dental and Catapult Education. My guest today is really one of my oldest friends in the industry. Not that he's old, just a great old friendship. And his name is Mike Buckner, and he's the Director of Business Development at Weave. And we got a lot of Weave updates, and I think it's so important to get to that as part of the new norm. But before I get into Mike, I want to just do a couple updates as practices start to reopen. And everybody out there is faced with, well, what's the risk? What is the risk factor? What's real news with fake news? And so I'm going to go into it this way. So let's understand the risks based on the data. And I'm going to read off the latest, but when is someone most infectious? It's a good question. The most infectious is 2 days prior to symptoms developing and or 1 day after symptoms. So you've got this 3-day window of peak infectiousness. Of that, the contagiousness rapidly declines over 7 days. So self-isolating, whether it's somebody you know, self-isolating for those 7 days becomes critical. And what they have shown now is the viral load basically over 21 days is almost virtually gone after 21 days. So when we're talking self-isolation for 3 or 4 weeks, I'm just telling you that's the data. So let's say you're isolating at home or you're just at home, you've got the symptoms. When would your partner get the symptoms, or somebody you're living with, or a child? The number now is 5.8 days. From the time you get it to the time you pass it along is 5.8 days. So when you're asking screening questions, these are the important things to be asking people about: symptoms, what are they feeling, et cetera, et cetera. And what's interesting is now I want to just talk about healthcare providers. What's the data on healthcare providers? Well, the latest study showed out of how many? Almost 7,000 healthcare providers, 73% were women, and the median age of the overall group was 42 years of age. So technically a lower risk group. And of the group itself, 40% had one underlying condition or more. 40%. So with that being said, median age is 42. 73% of these were women. What about race? And so when they looked at this group, 72% were white, and 801 or 21% of this specific group were African American, and 5% were Asian. And of that group, how many got sick? That's the risk factor. 90% did not require any hospitalization, and 2 to 5% did require intensive care, to be admitted to the intensive care. So there's that risk factor, that 2 to 5%. Just letting you know, I mean, I know there's an overall risk factor, but 2 to 5% had to be into the intensive care unit. And of those, there were 184 people who were admitted, 27 of those died. And so you had a death rate of 0.3 to 0.6% of all healthcare workers. And of those that died, almost 40% were over 65. So now we're starting to understand risk. Healthcare provider, 9 out of 10 just had the symptoms, got better. 2 to 5% intensive care, 0.3 to 0.6% died. Now, I think what's really interesting, and lastly, is the studies have said that out of Iceland and others, 40% have no symptoms. But what was interesting, 92% of the healthcare providers had symptoms. So are people not aware of their symptoms, or are there symptoms? 92% of the healthcare providers said there were symptoms. And of those, the two most common, of course, were fever and shortness of breath. But two-thirds still reported muscle pain, and really 65% talked about headaches, and another 16% talked about loss of taste and smell. So why do I bring all this up? This is why we're doing screenings. I'm going to get into Mike and what he's doing with screenings, but this is why you ask screening questions and detailed screening questions. Because I do believe I definitely feel the number is definitely less than 40% have no symptoms. And this healthcare provider poll really focused on that. It's just an opinion, but we're talking to thousands of healthcare people. Okay, so that's why screening becomes critical. So I'm going to bring on Mike Buckner. Mike, say hi to everybody.
How are you doing? Hello.
Wait, could you be a little more excited, Mike, than that?
Lou, it's good to talk to you. It's good to connect.
It's great to have you. So I have probably been one of the biggest Weave advocates for years. It's just, if I said to my team, okay, our smartphone system, we're taking it out and we're going to replace it, I think it would be bedlam in my office. I'd have a mutiny on my hands. We all know how great the smartphone system is, Mike, but I don't want to talk about how great that system is and how it replaced our old phones and everything else we were doing. I want to talk about COVID and what we're doing. So you're the head of business development. Tell me, what do you see as the big changes right now happening in Weave with the everyday patient experience? Let's go one by one. I'll let you start.
Yeah, it's a great point. You know, when this really took off, our team got together and we tried to really think through what the next few months would be like, what changes would be coming into the industry. Knowing that, you know, we were going to get through this. This was going to be a temporary period of being in quarantine. But the thing that we do know is that big disruptions like this, there is an inevitable change. There are processes that will change, that have changed. So, for example, we look at 9/11 and you know, pre 9/11, you could walk right up to the gate at the airport, right? I mean, that was something that we could not really even imagine doing now. But I remember going and picking up my dad when he'd come home from business trips. And since 9/11, new technologies came out, and they came out very quickly. New processes came out, screening processes, security processes. And so we know that, with something like this COVID-19 pandemic and everyone going into quarantine, when things open back up, that there will be some additional security and screenings that will basically become the norm, not just for the couple weeks or months afterwards, but I think that this is something that's going to last for a long time.
Agree.
So,
yeah,
for
sure.
For example, traditionally we are used to patients coming into the office and they sit in the waiting room and they fill out all their forms and their information and they bring it up to the front desk and then they wait to be called back for their appointment. But the problem is now we have this issue where we don't even want them coming into the practice if they've been exposed or if they have symptoms. So how do we screen them? How do we find out who is at higher risk of having COVID-19? And how do we find that out before they even come in? So now we're forced to rely on technologies. We're forced to rely on a means to get a survey, get a screening out to the patient, and we need that done instantaneously. We need that screening not too far in advance, because if they fill out a screening form, if they answer the questions that the ADA suggested questions for screening for COVID-19, if they answer those, 2 weeks beforehand or even a week beforehand, well, that's not really relevant. That doesn't help you, because they could have been exposed or all of a sudden come down with symptoms the day before they're coming into your appointment. So we need a way to basically screen those patients for symptoms right before they're coming in. And so one of the things that our team was able to do very quickly, and normally, Lou, as you know, when we're developing features, these are things that we test and we talk about, we plan out, and our developers basically, work on these things for quite a while before we roll something out. Well, now we were forced to come up with a solution very quickly that can help practices administer this screening form, this survey to patients very quickly. So now what we're able to do is for for offices who have Weave, they can basically tie this into their appointment reminders. So your patient gets an appointment reminder 2 weeks beforehand,
Right.
and then let's say they get one either 2 hours or a day beforehand, just to say, hey, we're excited to see you tomorrow. But before you come in, we're asking you to fill out this wellness screening. They click on the link right there in that automated text message, and there's a series of questions, and they answer those questions, and the team is able to see those in the Weave admin platform. They're able to see the responses right away. So basically, any patient who fills out that screening form, the team is able to see if there's any red flags that pop up, if there's any patients that they might need to push their appointment out a little bit, or call them and get some more additional information to see if it's safe to have them come into the practice. So this is one of those things that we were able to kind of hurry and put together, and we've had some adaptions, we've had some changes to it, especially as, and things change on a daily basis with this COVID-19, but as ADA said, okay, here's the list of questions that we want you to make sure you're asking patients. We've updated those questions to be what the ADA suggests, just to kind of help keep offices safe before patients come in.
So Mike, with that, can you also, in your same system with like the office's medical history forms, dental history forms, can you also send those out through the same link and have all those filled out for what the office is looking for comorbidities and other things like that? It's just normal. Can we do that through the same link options?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something too that we foresee really becoming the norm. And this is going to be one of those things that we won't even be able to imagine what it was like. A couple of years down the road, people are going to be like, yeah, do you remember when we actually passed around a clipboard and a pen to have patients fill out their medical history? In fact, as COVID really exploded and there was articles everywhere, some of the stuff that came out as offices were planning and talking about reopening was, okay, think about the changes that you're going to have to make in your practices. So for example, just the traditional clipboard and the pen, an average pen in a doctor's office that is passed around for patients to fill out their medical history, the average pen has 46,000 times more germs than the average toilet seat. I mean, that's mind-blowing. And now that there's this new light shed and people are more aware of whose hands they're shaking, or even shaking hands at all, or what they're touching, and the Purell that they're carrying around, everyone is more focused on how do you prevent the spread of germs and of infection. So things like that, things like even just passing around a pen, that's something that is going to become the norm. So yes, we have a partnership with mConsent where we're able to send out patient forms, have those patients fill those forms out before they come in, because what that does is, yes, one, that saves the time in the office, obviously. Now you're not having to have patients come in and wait in the waiting room and fill out that information before going back. And it's one step just to kind of increase efficiencies in the office for the team. Just makes things a lot easier.
So let me even bring this into full focus. In our practice, after we go through our screening, and we'd have to just try to use our screening and get it implemented into Weave screening. I love the idea of consent forms and updating all these forms, because openly, I think today in our morning huddles, it becomes imperative that we know who we're seeing and their COVID histories and their medical histories. So I love the seamless interaction. Now, you've also partnered with a teledentistry company, and has that worked out well? Tell me how that works out with your company as you can.
Yes. So this is something that, again, we knew that we were looking at a few different solutions for telemedicine. But as everything hit and people needed a way to stay in connection with their patients, especially when everything shut down on the dental side and we were only able to see emergency patients, we knew that we needed to continue the communication and even the consults with patients. And so the partnership that we have is with a company called Care Convene. And so what we're able to do is there's no sign up fees or ongoing fees, but basically there is a fee per appointment. So as patients are needing a consult. Maybe it's just checking in with their provider to look at, the swelling, or to see how they're recovering. Even just FaceTime. I mean, FaceTime has become essential. Zoom, and just be able to talk face to face.
For sure.
So we have a solution with a company called Care Convene that we're able to. It currently is not tying into Weave, but it is a solution through a partner that allows that teledentistry solution.
Got it. So let me then go into in our time. So Weave has gone from this incredible smartphone system, with two-way texting. Everything shows up on your patient, about your patient, on your monitor. My receptionists swear by it, all that. So many cool features. But now doctors are looking to reopen their practices. I mean, I know like Weave in every practice you'll get there, but openly, how do you see, what tools now do you have that would make simple solutions for doctors, for patients, for evaluating their practice, things like that? Tell me some of the latest things you've come up with at Weave.
Yeah, absolutely. We take something that is so commonplace as even just coming in and waiting in the waiting room. And that's something that we think will absolutely be different and change going forward as well. Because as social distancing really kind of exploded, and before that, I was talking with Carly, with my wife, the other day, and she goes, was this term social distancing even a thing before the pandemic? No, I don't remember it being so. But now everything is 6 feet apart, social distancing. And so when you're bringing patients in, even something just as simple as like the waiting room, how do we maintain social distancing when we're bringing patients in sometimes a smaller confined room waiting to go back to be treated? So we came up with the idea of having this curbside check-in, and really when everything was shut down, the only thing for people to do was go out on walks, stay inside, go get takeout, right? And even when you go get takeout, you can't go in anymore. I mean, a lot of places, they shut the restaurants down completely. You could pull up and wait, or even text when you're there, and they bring the food out for you. Well, why is that any different for our dental patients coming in? So we developed, with our messaging component, we developed an automated message that can go out to your patients before their appointment. So now, as they're coming, as they're getting ready to come to your office for the appointment, they get a text that basically says, you know what, for your safety and to help us maintain social distancing, give us a text when you pull up and wait in the comfort of your car until we're ready to see you. Now, again, if they filled out the forms, then they don't need to come in and wait in the office. They filled out the screening forms, they filled out their patient intake forms, and now they pull up to the office and they send a text and they just say, hey, we just pulled up. Or even if you take an Uber, hey, I'm waiting outside, you let me know when you're ready. And then when you're ready to bring them back, you actually see their notification on, if you've got Weave, you actually see it on the computer, see the text that they sent, hey, I'm here, I'm ready for you to go back. And if you're practicing, let's say you're back in one of the operatories and you have a smartwatch, you can actually see that notification pop up on your watch, oh, patient's here. And then you can go and send them a message back, I'll meet you at the door and I'll bring you right on back for your appointment. I even know, Lou, this is crazy, but I even know some offices that have decided that for the next short while, they are actually their front office procedures are all being done remotely. The patients, I mean, there actually is not even someone at the front desk. They're doing everything remotely. They're texting the patients, are you here? Are you ready? I have your patient intake forms. Once you're ready, they message one of the hygienists to come back and grab them at the door and take them on back. There is no need to have somebody exposed, to go through that PPE, the cost of all the protective gear and everything. Now you're actually running a remote office. And so this is just one more step to do that.
Yep. I'm going to tell you, for all of our emergencies over the last 3 weeks, no front team. I couldn't agree more. They shouldn't be there to be exposed. I mean, even with teledentistry, we're looking at how my front team will be doing teledentistry with the patients, talking about payments and everything else. I couldn't agree more. I love this.
Yeah.
I personally see our concierge dental assistant opening the doors up, guiding the patients in, and it's all going to be part of our PPE fee. I mean, I love the texting feature of this, especially the way I love what Weave is doing with that. So let me ask you a couple questions because we're going to run now shorter on time. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your most recent launch into analytic quick fill lists, things like this. You got 2 minutes. Give me some of the latest add-ons of how your latest software can add to a patient's reopening.
Absolutely. As offices are gearing up to reopen, we're having to figure out how do you repair the schedule that has just kind of fallen apart over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Patients that have had to be moved around and treatment that was accepted, but maybe we didn't schedule it. Maybe we had to move that out. And so currently with our analytics platform that we have, it's built in with Weave. It basically is a system that can allow the team to engage as well. So we have some main KPIs, some main key performance indicators that's going to allow the team to gain visibility into what's going on in the practice. They can go into hygiene and they can look at hygiene patients that are overdue, that maybe left the practice without rescheduling, or you can look into the restorative and you can look into the patients that have larger cases that maybe we had to move those out. So it easily allows you to pull up those lists of patients that you need to take action on. You need to get the hygiene in, you need to get the restorative in. And then right there built into the system, you can either click on text or call, and you're able to have a more customizable, more personalized conversation with them. Hey, Mike, when you were last in, we talked about XYZ. Let's find a time to get you scheduled. And by doing that right through the platform, you can go after your cancellations that you needed to reschedule. You can go after your hygiene, your restorative, and rebuild the schedule and get the team involved in rebuilding the schedule by sending out these customizable, personalized messages that will engage the patients and bring them back in and rebuild the schedule in the practice.
So Mike, let me ask you this, and then I'll ask you one last question. There's so much we can talk about. So if someone, two things. So let's say people are out there watching this and they're Weave users and they go, I didn't know we could do this. Who do they call at Weave? And then who does a potentially new client call at Weave? Because you've talked about stuff that some of the things I don't know. The last stuff I definitely knew, but who does a current user call there? So
current users, as you log into Weave, you'll see on the screen, on your desktop app on the screen, if you go down to the bottom right-hand side, there's a new button. There is a new symbol that is called the Recovery Kit. And this is a step-by-step on all the new features that we have, on step-by-step what you need to do in the practice to get the doors back open again. So it walks you through step-by-step, and as you, each of those different features or key items on there, there's additional training and also resources if you need additional help, where to click and how to contact, how to reach out for additional training. So current users, it's in there. If you are not new users, if you're a new user, if you are interested, I would actually just say, you know what, send me an email or a text, and I will get you connected with someone that can help you, walk you through to see if Weave is a good fit for your office.
So what's your contact?
So my contact, my email is mike.buckner, mike.buckner @getweave.com. Mike.
And you'll connect them.
@getweave.com.
You'll connect that person then to the right teams. Okay.
And I will get you connected.
Last question. So I have been doing email campaigns and click here to see my video. Is that what your company's recommending, or texting patients with campaigns? In other words, this is what we're doing, these are our changes. What's your company recommending?
So right now, communication is key, and putting these campaigns together to educate your patients on what's going on. We recently have launched and kind of revamped our email marketing. So there's a lot of resources that are in there to help practices quickly and easily put together an email with a call to action button, send that out to your patients so that you can keep them informed as to what's going on in the practice.
Right.
And then on top of that, there has been a greater need for round-the-clock connection. And I'm not suggesting that you need to answer every phone call from your patients, but especially with COVID, there is an increased need and desire to stay connected. And so right now, whether you're using Weave or not, with the Weave app, you can have the ability through a HIPAA compliant platform to be able to go in and see your schedule and reach out and talk to your patients, text them after hours where it looks like it's coming from the office phone number. And then any new calls that are coming in, anyone who's logged in can see who's coming in, who's calling in, who's texting in. And if those calls are missed, an automated text will be sent out that looks customizable. So you can say something like, hi, this is Denise with Dr. Graham's office. I'm currently helping another patient, or we're after hours. I will text you back in 3 to 5 minutes or at the top of the hour, or you can text me here. How can we help you? There is an increased need of quick responses and connection with patients, with future patients, prospective patients that are wanting to get into your practice. And that's key so that you don't lose them to clicking and going somewhere else if they can't get someone on the phone.
Mike Buckner, I miss you, brother. I miss you.
Miss you too, Lou.
Everybody. I miss the Weave team. I'm just going to say, my team needs to do a lot of the recovery and updates. We've been so busy the last 2 weeks. This will be on our Zoom call tomorrow to do our Weave recovery. I thank you so much. Hi to your twins and everybody, your loving family. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Be safe. You're welcome. Be safe. Be smart, everybody. We'll see you soon. So let me be clear. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions. So what we want you to do is we want you to go to education@midwaydental.com. Shoot us your questions. We'll go right to the experts. I know I'm not the expert, so let's go ask the experts what we should be doing as our next step next week, the week after, and thereafter. I look forward to hearing from you.